Life, in many ways, is just one big stage show. Because in our special ways, we're all wearing some kind of mask. We're all living in a fabricated persona. Because understanding and showing the world who you truly are is essentially one of the largest obstacles that we'll ever have to overcome. Maybe it's because we have to have an awareness of how other people see you. Granted, you don't have to act upon that, but an awareness is enough. But maybe it's because you have to face up to how you see you. Because when you understand who you are, when you are comfortable in your own skin, that is when you begin to understand how much power you have as an individual. There is no quick fix. It doesn't happen overnight. There's no easy route. It's a journey. And today, I'm going to share my story and tell you about my relationship with creativity and how it's helped ease the wheels forward into finding my sense of self. Now, ever since I was a little girl, I loved to smile. There's something so pure and wholesome about a smile, an effortless energy exchanged from one person to another, this beautiful, positive domino reaction. And so, like other little young minds around me, and with my default cheesy grin, I began to take on the world. A world that I was told I could have anything. A world I was told I could do anything. A world I was told I could be anyone. After all, we instinctively instill this gift of possibility into the next generation. And years went by, and I started to realize that the beauty in the world that I was seeing for other people, they didn't even realize that very same beauty existed. I began to realize that this big, wide world that I had grown accustomed to for my own personal source of exploration and fascination was starting to become restricting, and I couldn't do anything about it. And you have to note that statistics do show that children in this early stage of life academically are quite balanced. It's not until social aspects start getting sprinkled into the mix that you start to see a dynamic shift. An example, my bold confidence and my outspoken nature, which was once encouraged, was now becoming repressed. Because being bold and outspoken aren't necessarily characteristics that you want from a little girl. My assertive nature and my inquisitive side of me, the way it was being met, I started to realize my ethnicity was starting to be in play. Now, this dark, unprovoked response to you, when you are just existing in the world, and that beautiful time of life when your sense of self should be a wonderful wealth of discovery, this negative energy seeps into a developing mind, and it warps the way you see the world. It chips away. I became upset. I was hurt. I was angry. But I wasn't allowed to have a voice. After all, in the eyes of society, I was just another black female. Now, we do lump and label people together that have similar characteristics because it does take a lot of time and energy to learn about an individual. It's so ingrained in our culture, and we've all been guilty of that. So no one should ever feel truly bad for prejudging. However, when those same prejudgments are robbing someone of the possibility of themselves finding themselves for themselves, that's when it becomes problematic. I did not fit into any of the boxes, and all the labels that were slapped on me just slid right off. There wasn't a place for me. I was on the outside, left exposed and vulnerable. So, of course, I was the perfect target to be bullied from all directions. So my identity, before I even could understand what it could be, it was ripped out of me and dissected by people who were essentially having their own battles of insecurity. So they had to attack the dregs of confidence that I once held. I stood and I listened to all of these voices and all the labels, the justifications for these attacks. I started to notice they contradicted themselves. So I stopped listening. Because if that's not who I am, and if that's not who I am, if that's not who I am, then who am I? Who am I? Who am I? Now that is a big question for anyone to deal with at any point in their life. But I started to understand that the socially dictated placement for me in this world was not where I wanted to be. And the validation that I so craved, I knew that I will never get it from an external source. I had to find it within myself. I had to understand myself. And like any major goal in life, it's always best to break it down into manageable bite-sized chunks. In order for me to accept who I am, I have to learn about who I am. Well, I like smiling and I like making people happy, but what makes me happy? I kind of like writing, so I wrote. The trials and tribulations of my teenage temptations, amorous admirations of sensations of my soul. My mind melted into muscle and I finally formed into me. A hunger quelled, a thirst quenched. From there, writing was my default. Writing became my voice. And with this, I threw myself into so many aspects in my life and until something stuck. And my drama teacher, Miss Cunningham, she saw a spark within me. She saw a beauty that I didn't even know existed. And with the help of my family, I tentatively took the steps into this new creative realm, and I auditioned and gained a place at the Birmingham Repertory Youth Theatre. And the theatre became my second home. I was around people from different walks of life that had different learning and physical capabilities. I was around boys for the first time, so I went to an all-girls school. But I also had people from different cultures and different class backgrounds, but none of those aspects mattered. None of those labels mattered. What mattered was how we treated each other and the content of our character. So with my newfound teenage confidence, I noticed that my grades skyrocketed up and my academic achievements started to build a new foundation for me, but I wanted to continue on this creative route to see how far it would get me. And I was honoured to gain a place at Dartington College of Arts, which is in Totnes in South Devon. And at the time that I attended, it was the last remaining higher education institute in the UK that was solely dedicated to artistic practices. And it was known worldwide for its quite radical teaching methods. But fundamentally, it was its priority towards context and questioning as you as an artist and towards your practice that will hold its legacy. And it was there, my bold, inquisitive, confident girl, the little black girl in me started smiling at the world again, and I haven't stopped smiling since. And now, to this day, I am an international award-winning cabaret artist, and I have been so for 10 years. And one of the biggest things that people ask me is, how on earth did I get into cabaret? Well, all of my life, I have been on the receiving end of prejudice, stereotyping, labeling. And I wanted to reclaim a sense of self for myself. I wanted to reconnect with the body that society's labels had taken away from me. And the joy with cabaret is that, when with my work, is that I sacrifice a lot of myself and my identity to also address a lot of social attitudes towards race, gender, sexuality, all of that. Because those kind of aspects on this body, they don't really get addressed in mainstream media. But in a cabaret stage, it's a safe space to explore these ideals. And the joy of my performances is that I get to travel all over the world, and with beautiful sort of theatre venues and lavish, opulent A-list venues, but I also work in charity events and create shows and work with people that have overcome huge issues in their lives, but for one moment, it's all about celebrating life. It's celebrating being you. I also do a lot of events and shows in church halls and community centres, performing for the elderly, adding a little bit of glitz and glamour into an aspect of their world that the rest of society thought didn't exist anymore. It's emotionally draining. It's mentally straining, but it's beautifully empowering because I'm allowing the world to see me in a different light. And by doing so, we can allow ourselves to look at each other in a different way. The thing is, culturally, academically, socially, I understand the joy of having a creative outlet. It's the very essence of me. However, it's the essence of all of us, because we all started from the same page. We all started to embrace the world with the same imagination-led perception of the world. We all used to question, we all are open-minded, we all are quite playful, and it is still there. Being creative isn't just tangible skills of like pen and paper and ink. Those are just threads of a huge spectrum. Being creative is understanding what makes you happy and injecting parts of your personality into your everyday. The world is going to have limitations on every single one of us. But as long as those limitations are not from you, then it's a start. So give yourself creative freedom. Give yourself a creative license. Understand and enjoy what makes you happy. Be free to embrace. Be free to explore. And be free to own who you truly are. Thank you.